This video delves into the darker side of the prepping community, shedding light on individuals who, despite their intentions to be self-sufficient and prepared for emergencies, find themselves at risk of running afoul of the law. This segment emphasizes that not all preppers are engaging in harmless activities. Some inadvertently cross legal boundaries that could lead to significant consequences, including imprisonment. As the video unfolds, it presents various categories of preppers whose actions may place them in jeopardy. For instance, while collecting rainwater might seem like a prudent strategy to ensure a water supply during emergencies, many states have strict regulations governing this practice, and non-compliance can lead to hefty fines or legal issues. The focus shifts to those who may hoard supplies beyond legal limits or engage in activities that could be seen as hoarding for profit, drawing scrutiny from authorities. The conversation is framed within the context that prepping is more than just acquiring supplies. It entails a detailed understanding of local, state, and federal regulations. The author stimulates a sense of urgency by inviting viewers to consider the fine line that separates responsible prepping from actions that can result in severe legal repercussions. It is a compelling call to action for preppers to educate themselves on the legal landscape relevant to their practices, ultimately ensuring that their journey towards preparedness doesn't lead them into a legal trap. Laws and individual rights. The interplay between laws and individual rights is a complex dance, especially for preppers who strive for self-sufficiency while being mindful of legal constraints. At its core, the tug of war between individual freedoms and government regulations creates a pressing challenge for those who prepare for crisis. Preppers often invest considerable time and resources into fortifying their homes, stockpiling resources, and developing survival plans, only to discover that specific legal hurdles can thwart their intentions. One of the most striking examples of this reality is the case of an individual who faced legal repercussions for excessive rainwater collection. This case serves as a cautionary tale about the fine line that preppers walk when attempting to utilize resources sustainably while adhering to local regulations. While the act of collecting rainwater may seem prudent from a preparedness standpoint, many regions have regulations limiting how much water can be harvested. Ignoring these laws, even with the best of intentions, can lead to legal ramifications, monetary fines, or worse. Furthermore, preppers must also contend with zoning laws and property regulations, which can affect their ability to build structures or plant gardens necessary for long-term survival. For instance, in some areas, there are strict zoning codes that dictate how land can be used, prohibiting any unpermitted construction of shelters, greenhouses, or even the planting of certain crops. These laws might be designed for public health and safety, yet they can inadvertently hinder the autonomy of those seeking to live more sustainably and independently. Importantly, it's also crucial to assess the community's perspective when discussing laws and individual rights. Preppers must recognize that their actions may impact their neighbors, raising questions about water rights, land use, and noise ordinances. Laws exist not solely for enforcement, but for fostering a harmonious coexistence within communities, ensuring that one person's self-sufficiency does not come at the expense of another's rights or well-being. Ultimately, preppers must learn to navigate this balancing act between individual rights and compliance with local regulations. Understanding the existing laws and advocating for one's rights while recognizing the potential consequences of ignoring these regulations is essential. Those who achieve this balance increase their chances of successful preparedness without falling prey to the legal traps that could jeopardize their efforts and lead to imprisonment. Ultimately, awareness and respect for the law combined with strategic planning can empower preppers to thrive rather than merely survive. To media misrepresentation. In the realm of preparedness and self-sufficiency, not all preppers are portrayed equally by the media. The sensationalized narratives often emerge when individuals operating under the guise of self-reliance engage in activities that may infringe upon legal regulations. One notable instance that encapsulates this issue is the case of an individual arrested for rainwater hoarding. While headlines screamed about the absurdity of the charges, the real story was far more nuanced and complex. The media's portrayal typically lacks the depth required to understand the ramifications of the individual's actions. It painted an image of an overzealous prepper simply gathering rainwater, a practice seen as benign or even beneficial in drought-prone areas. However, this individual was not merely collecting rain. They had constructed considerable infrastructure, including large dams and lakes, that drew scrutiny and concern from local authorities. This dramatic shift from simple rain collection to significant alterations in the natural landscape shifted the narrative from one of harmless prepping to a serious violation of environmental regulations. Furthermore, media reports often overlook the historical context that contributed to this individual's legal troubles. The authorities had issued multiple warnings prior to the arrest, indicating that this was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of ongoing infractions. The story reflects a broader trend in which the media focuses more on generating shock value than presenting a balanced view of the issues at hand. Consequently, many readers may walk away with a skewed perception of prepping, associating it more with legal trouble than its underlying principles of sustainability and self-sufficient living. While sensational headlines are designed to attract attention, they also carry the responsibility of providing accurate and thorough information. The narrative surrounding rainwater hoarding can perpetuate stereotypes about preppers and lead to public misconceptions. As such, it becomes imperative for the audience to seek out the full context behind such stories, rather than accepting distilled versions that compromise accuracy for drama. 3. Preppers and legal compliance. In the realm of preparedness, legal compliance is a fundamental aspect that distinguishes responsible preppers from those who may attract legal scrutiny. While the notion that preppers are potential lawbreakers persists, it is crucial to recognize that preparedness itself is not a pathway to legal trouble. Rather, it is often the misconceptions and lack of awareness surrounding legal boundaries that lead to issues. Responsible preppers approach their activities with a clear understanding of local laws, which is essential for ensuring that their actions do not unintentionally contravene regulations. Stockpiling is a common practice among preppers driven by the desire to be self-sufficient and ready for emergencies. However, misunderstandings can arise regarding what can be harvested or stored. Most preppers are conscientious individuals who remain law-abiding. Therefore, it is the illegal activities such as hoarding items deemed contraband or engaging in practices that violate zoning laws that may place them in legal jeopardy. For instance, certain states have strict regulations regarding the collection and use of rainwater, which can lead to complications if preppers are unaware of the rules. Understanding local regulations is vital for any prepper. Just as a responsible driver must be informed about traffic laws to avoid accidents and penalties, preppers must also equip themselves with knowledge about relevant legislation that governs their activities. This includes, but is not limited to, the awareness of local ordinance restrictions, wildlife conservation rules, safety codes, and guidelines concerning food storage practices. By doing so, preppers can make informed decisions that enhance their preparedness efforts while remaining compliant with the law. To avoid legal trouble, preppers should take proactive measures to familiarize themselves with the laws and regulations that affect their practices, engaging with community resources such as local government websites. Legal experts and fellow preppers can provide valuable insights and aid in understanding the legal landscape. Taking these steps can help avoid conflicts that stem from ignorance or misinterpretation of legal norms. Ultimately, the objective of responsible preparedness should not be to rebel against regulations, but to engage in practices that prioritize safety, sustainability, and compliance. By cultivating a mindset of cooperation with the laws that govern them, preppers can focus on their mission of self-reliance while ensuring they do not enter the realm of illegality. 4. Government's role in preppers. The intersection of government policies and individual preparedness plans has become a contentious issue, particularly in discussions surrounding the types of preppers who may face legal repercussions for their choices. As government agencies strive to create a uniform response system to disasters and emergencies, preppers often independently pursue strategies that contradict wider policies. This inconsistency can place certain preppers at odds with the law, making them susceptible to scrutiny and potential punitive actions. In some cases, the government's overarching focus on public welfare might inadvertently marginalize the individual approaches of preppers. For instance, preppers often invest significant time and resources into stockpiling supplies, building self-sustaining systems, and honing survival skills practices that the government might view as threats to social order during a crisis. The perception that these self-reliant individuals are hoarding resources can lead to fears of unequal distribution during emergencies, prompting government intervention. This tension underscores a fundamental dichotomy between the collaborative aims of the government and the individualized strategies of preppers. Furthermore, certain types of prepping can raise red flags for law enforcement, especially when they involve the accumulation of weapons or other materials deemed hazardous. Preppers focused on building extensive survival caches, whether for natural disasters or social unrest, may find themselves under increased oversight. In extreme cases, this could lead to legal ramifications if their activities are interpreted as stockpiling in a manner that endangers public safety or contravenes local regulations. For preppers, the challenge lies in navigating the fine line between personal preparedness and adherence to government laws while remaining conscious of the social contract at play. The clash between government oversight and individual freedom reflects broader societal concerns. Some preppers may feel unjustly targeted by regulations that fail to consider their intentions, while governments might argue that their rules aim to protect the community as a whole. Ultimately, the evolving relationship between government roles and prepping necessitates ongoing dialogue, ensuring that personal preparedness can coexist with public safety measures. Fostering understanding between entities and individuals may allow for more inclusive policies that respect both community needs and individual rights, thereby reducing the likelihood that preppers will find themselves in legal jeopardy. 5S, permits and government overreach. The world of prepping often collides with a bureaucratic maze that can be daunting for even the most seasoned individuals. Permits and government regulations are seen not merely as formalities, but as a complex web that can ensnare well-meaning preppers. These regulations can hinder one's ability to effectively prepare for emergencies, leading to a sense of frustration and helplessness. Just as the instructions on a seed packet guide gardeners towards successful planting, permits are designed ostensibly to ensure safety and proper practice in various projects. However, they can sometimes feel more like obstacles than aids. Take, for instance, the experience of setting up a rain catchment system. This simple yet effective method for conserving water can be complicated by local laws and regulations requiring permits. The hurdle of navigating through these bureaucratic processes can often transform an empowering act of preparation into a time-consuming ordeal. What should be a straightforward project can spiral into a quagmire of paperwork, fees, and approvals. This can discourage many potential preppers from taking even the most basic steps towards self-sufficiency, as they find themselves bogged down by the minutiae of compliance rather than focusing on building their skills or resources. Moreover, there is a growing perception that many of these regulations serve primarily to bolster government revenue rather than foster genuine safety and community welfare. For preppers, this creates a deep sense of mistrust toward governmental authorities. A belief is brewing that regulations have morphed from protective measures into profit-generating schemes. This can lead to an adversarial relationship between the government and individuals who wish to be prepared for potential crises, further alienating those who prefer to take charge of their own safety. Understanding local laws and navigating these complex regulations is crucial for preppers who wish to avoid legal trouble. Ignorance of permit requirements can lead to significant fines or, in more severe cases, incarceration, particularly for those who defy regulations in an effort to establish their self-reliance. Therefore, it is essential for preppers to educate themselves and actively engage with their local governance, advocating for sensible, fair regulations that facilitate rather than hinder their preparedness efforts. Only by demystifying these hurdles can preppers foster a more positive and productive relationship with the legal frameworks that govern their pursuit of independence. 6. Political trends and big government. The relationship between political trends and the rise of big government poses significant challenges for the prepping community as younger generations increasingly lean towards larger government interventions and regulations. Preppers may find their lifestyle and values at odds with the prevailing political climate. This shift can be compared to a quiet camping area that suddenly becomes overcrowded. The serene space that was once a refuge becomes cramped and strained, similar to the challenges preppers face as government control expands. Homegrown initiatives like rainwater harvesting and self-sustaining gardening have long been prized by preppers as means of independence and resilience. However, as regulatory measures tighten, these foundations of self-sufficiency may become infringers' targets. For instance, in some areas, laws have already begun to emerge that restrict the collection of rainwater or limit the planting of certain crops, aiming to control resource usage under the guise of environmental protection. This creates a conflict for those who value autonomy and self-sufficiency, as their practices are deemed unlawful or regulated by an overreaching government. Furthermore, the shifting political landscape influences not only the legality of certain self-sufficient practices, but also the overall mentality among the general populace. As big government consolidates power, there tends to be an increase in reliance on federal programs, which can diminish the sense of personal responsibility and preparedness that is essential in the prepping community. This mindset can create friction between preppers and a society that may view self-sufficiency as obsolete or even rebellious. For preppers, staying informed about these political developments is not just beneficial. It is crucial for navigating the evolving landscape. This means actively engaging in political discourse, attending local governmental meetings, and building networks with other like-minded individuals to advocate for their rights. Knowledge of recent policies and laws, as well as understanding how they serve to reinforce or undermine prepping strategies, is invaluable. Ultimately, recognizing and adapting to these political trends is as essential as maintaining a well-stocked supply of resources. Understanding how governmental changes can affect prepping not only helps in strategizing effective responses, but also underscores the importance of grassroots movements aimed at protecting the values of self-reliance and independence. To successfully navigate a future characterized by prominent government influence, preppers must be proactive, educating themselves, advocating for their practices, and remaining resilient in the face of changing regulations. 7. Relocation for self-sufficiency. Relocating for self-sufficiency is a crucial step for many who identify as preppers in the modern world, where urban living often imposes restrictions that can hinder one's pursuit of self-reliance. The importance of finding an ideal location cannot be overstated. Often, these individuals find that their current living arrangements do not support their lifestyle goals. For example, Strict local regulations regarding gardening, animal husbandry, or even solar installations can make it nearly impossible to adopt the self-sufficient practices they aspire to. Dreams of self-reliance can flourish in more suitable environments. Relocation can serve as a catalyst for individuals wanting to cultivate their own food, raise chickens, or even start small-scale farming operations without being constrained by local government ordinances. Aspiring preppers are increasingly looking for rural areas where privacy and land ownership allow them to implement the sustainable practices they envision. This search involves not just finding land, but seeking a location conducive to a completely new lifestyle. Ideal locations for such moves often promote freedom. Prospective preppers should look for areas that support renewable energy practices such as solar power and allow for rainwater collection systems. Emphasizing independent living, these features make it easier for individuals to decrease their reliance on external systems, ultimately leading to a more sustainable lifestyle. Coupled with a versatile growing season, these regions can provide the perfect backdrop for crops, livestock, and a garden that serves both needs and ambitions. Additionally, community integration plays a vital role in the decision to relocate. Finding a community that values self-sufficiency can provide essential support and resources. Areas with like-minded individuals are more likely to foster knowledge sharing, skill development, and a sense of belonging, all of which are paramount for new settlers aiming to establish a self-sufficient lifestyle. However, moving isn't merely about packing up and starting afresh. It requires thoughtful planning akin to preparing for a long hike. A successful relocation necessitates evaluating multiple factors, including the climate, soil quality, accessibility to resources, and community dynamics. This decision should align with one's prepping philosophy to ensure the transition is seamless and enriching. In summary, the shifting political landscape poses significant challenges for preppers who value self-sufficiency and independence. The increasing regulations surrounding essential practices, coupled with a societal tendency toward reliance on government programs, creates a tense environment for those committed to autonomy. For many preppers, adapting to these changes is vital for maintaining their beliefs and strategies. Relocation for self-sufficiency can provide a necessary avenue for pursuing a more compliant lifestyle aligned with their values. However, navigating this journey requires careful planning, community engagement, and a proactive stance towards political awareness. As the landscape continues to evolve, it remains crucial for preppers to stay informed, advocate for their rights, and build resilient networks that support their vision of self-reliance in a world that may increasingly infringe upon it.